Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to call to order the Narragansett Town Council regular meeting for October 17th, 2022. It is 7:32 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will start with the disclosure of executive session votes from October 3rd, 2022. We had a motion by Councilor Murray, seconded by Councilor Cicilline Bonanno, to nominate Anthony R. Mignonelli to probate judge, so unanimously voted. Motion by Councilor Drzezinski, seconded by Councilor Murray, to exit executive session and reconvene in open session, so unanimously voted. So what we'll do is go ahead and ask for a motion to appoint the judge of the probate court. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to appoint the judge for the probate court, Anthony.
Mignonelli?
I don't want to mispronounce it.
I think that's correct, right?
That's my motion.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, great. Motion approved, 5-0. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And we will go ahead with the swearing in at this time. So let me come on down.
Support the laws and Constitution thereof. The laws and Constitution of the United States. The laws and Constitution of the United States. The Narragansett Town Charter and ordinances. The Narragansett Town Charter and ordinances. That I will well and truly execute the office of judge of the probate court. I will well and truly execute the office of the probate judge. For the term for which I have been appointed. For the term for which I've been appointed. Or until another be engaged in my place. Or another be engaged in my place. Or until I am legally discharged therefrom. Or until I am legally discharged therefrom. So help me God. So help me God. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job. Good job.
Okay, congratulations once again. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the October 3rd, 2022 executive session minutes?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. And we will move on to announcements and presentations. We're going to start with a proclamation this evening for a longtime employee of the Maury Lugens Library, Marilyn Sherman, who is retiring after 33 years of service at the library. So we're going to go ahead and read this. A proclamation honoring adult services librarian Marilyn Sherman. Whereas Marilyn Sherman began working at the Narragansett Public Library on October 2nd, 1989. After 33 years of service to the library community, Marilyn Sherman's retirement is October 14th, 2022. And whereas Marilyn Sherman began her career as a circulation staff member and was promoted to head of circulation in 1998, which she willingly took on the responsibility of supervising staff and ensuring a high quality of customer service to library patrons. And whereas Marilyn Sherman received her certification in microcomputing from Community College of Rhode Island to further her skills and the understanding of how computers would play an influential role to libraries by providing new and innovative technologies to the public, as well as to meet the needs of library patrons. And whereas Marilyn Sherman served as a member of the Narragansett Library interim management team in 2005 to 2006 in the absence of a library director, whereas she was instrumental in supporting the Library Board of Trustees by assisting with library operations, and whereas Marilyn Sherman was a member of the American Library Association, Rhode Island Library Association, and the New England Library Association, where she attended many professional conferences, workshops, and continued education opportunities during her career as a librarian. Whereas Marilyn Sherman received her professional degree, the Master in Library Services, from the University of Rhode Island in spring 2007, and whereas Marilyn Sherman, as adult services librarian, has planned numerous programs aimed at both educating and entertaining library patrons: book clubs, genealogy workshops, popular crafting programs, author talks, and many library clubs in response to patrons' interests. She played an integral part in providing a series of programs over the years as she worked with many local organizations to provide information about Narragansett, South County, and Rhode Island. Now, therefore, all our citizens join us in extending to Marilyn Sherman our deep appreciation for her distinguished service and dedication, and our best wishes for many more happy and productive years in retirement. Congratulations, Marilyn.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know.
Okay, next we have our town manager's update, so we'll go over to Jim Tierney.
Good evening, members of the council, public who's gathered here tonight, and those of you who are at home. First of all, Marilyn, as a taxpayer, a resident taxpayer, and the town manager, thank you so much for your service. Congratulations on your retirement, and health and happiness, without having us keep a schedule. Judge Mignonelli, congratulations. Thanks for joining the team. As I started, COVID, it's still here. We don't have any staff out of work as a result of it. We do have test kits for anyone in the public who are interested in obtaining them. We begin the scheduling process for the 23-24 budget, which includes first the capital plan and followed by multiple meetings with all the department heads and with finance. We place a new water dispenser in the hallway, in the public area of the hallway, which is for town staff and the public, in an effort to encourage the reusable containers for filtered water going forward, and that's available for both the public and the staff. We received notice today from the Coastal Resources Management Council that the request from the Coastal Access Improvement Committee regarding right-of-way signage at the Califf and Louise Avenue location was approved. We will be coordinating with Coastal Access and CRMC and DPW to get that done. Just a heads up to the members of the public, early in-person voting will start this Wednesday, October 19th, and it'll be right here at Town Hall, and it'll continue until November 7th at 4 p.m., the eve of the election. From the day of the election, it'll be at the regular polling places. I received several inquiries regarding the 3-student ordinance. The town still is prevented from enforcing this ordinance until the court comes back with a decision on it. I just wanted to keep the public appraised of that. And that's it for this week. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim. All right, and we do have one more item under announcements and presentations. So a few months back, the town council approved a motion to bring on the Beta Group, or Beta Incorporated, to work on some improved parking plans down on the 5 different CRMC right-of-ways in town. So that would be Pilgrim Ave, Pilgrim, Connet, Bass Rock, Newton, and Hazard. That work has been done, and we have a representative from Beta here tonight to show us some proposed designs for those roads. This is just a presentation, but it is something that we had asked for, so we wanted to make sure that we had the presentation with this council, and then the next council, if they want to take action, they'll be able to do that. So we have Mr. Herman Peralta here tonight from Beta. So, Mr. Peralta, welcome.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having us. Good evening, council members. Again, my name is Herman Peralta. I am a transportation engineer with Beta Group. First, I'd like to thank the town for giving Beta the opportunity to work on this project, which is to improve access and parking for 5 public coastal access points on the southern part of the town. These include Pilgrim Avenue, Conan Avenue, Bass Rock Road, Newton Avenue, and Hazard Avenue. So I will be presenting each roadway in the order the plan set was set up and discuss briefly the existing conditions and then the design concepts. Again, for the council members, please feel free to ask questions at any point of the presentation. So just a brief description of the project area. All 5 roadways, as previously mentioned, is located on the southern section of the town with access to Ocean Road, which is the main arterial along this section of the town. Please note that the design concept, which I will present in a bit, was based on mitigating impacts to the town right-of-way and also any permitting that might be required with the Coastal Resources Management Council, which is CRMC. So what I like to do is to start off with Pilgrim Avenue and then Conan Avenue, which both have 3 concept alternatives. And I'm going to go through from least to most impacts, and then go into Bass Rock Road, and then Hazard Avenue, and then Newton Avenue. Thank you, Dan. Pilgrim Avenue, just a little bit of the existing conditions. It's approximately 1,000 feet long. The roadway is about 18 feet wide, and there's about a 50-foot right-of-way. There is no curbing or sidewalk provided along the roadway. There is no parking allowed on either side of the roadway, with the exception of the short section of Pilgrim Avenue. As you can see in the existing figure that I've given the council members, parking as it exists now, they pretty much stack at the end of the roadway with no easy egress. So I guess the existing vehicles are backing into either the side street or the private roadway in order to exit. So in order to mitigate that, we had proposed a hammerhead type turnaround. So this concept shows you the least impact to the town right-of-way. However, this design could potentially be rendered impractical, because if we have vehicles stacking up in front of each other, then they're not going to be able to access the hammerhead turnaround. So if you could go to the next slide, Dan, please. Thank you. So what we had is we've come up with a concept alternative 2 is to provide 2 parking spaces on the southerly side of Pilgrim Avenue. This would require roadway widening. But again, it's only 2 spaces. So again, this would be the second least impact to the town right-of-way. If you go to the next slide, Dan, this would be the concept alternative 3, which is pretty much taking up the entire town right-of-way in order to fit parking on both the southerly side and northerly side of Pilgrim Avenue. And under this concept, we would provide 2 parking spaces on the southerly side and then 4 parking spaces on the northerly side for a total of 6 parking spaces. In this concept, you would be able to, there's different ways of doing the angled parking. For this situation, we would propose a back-in reverse-only parking in order to ease the egress of vehicles. So in that case, you would drive into the hammerhead turnaround, and then back into the parking space. Again, there's different options of doing the angle parking. You can reverse it and then have them park that way. So this would be the most easiest way to egress the area. So that's the reason why we had angled the parking this way. So the second roadway is Conan. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, the 3 different types of parking. the hammerhead, that's the initial one, right? Correct?
That's correct, yeah.
All right. Could you just have the stack parking, but just widen utilize some of that right away and just have a simple stack parking where you can get a car in there and then park on either side?
And then have an open through between the
Yes.
parking?
Yes.
Yes, I mean, that could be done.
Wouldn't that be the easiest and least impact?
Yes, but the parallel parking could be an issue if you take the entire right-of-way. Again,
Well,
I think,
I don't think you need the entire right-of-way. I think you'd utilize a little bit to the north and then a little bit more to the south there. Or west, that'd be northeast and southwest, but just a thought. Thank you.
yes.
Herman, I had a question. There are three options. Did Beta recommend one, or they just gave us the three? I didn't see like a recommendation kind of for
We
each
didn't
street.
recommend each one. What we wanted to do is just have the town, decide of what they would like, because again, one of the impacts would be for Pilgrim Avenue, if you were to do concept alternative 3, you would have to remove or relocate a landscape area
Right.
that's within the town right away, that's owned by the private owner. Either remove it or relocate it.
Right.
So-
Well, that's my point. That's my point.
Yep.
I don't want to, take what they have landscaped there, maybe, cut off a little bit, but not encroach on their,
Right.
what they have now,
That will give you only a few parking spaces versus, what we are proposing. But if
Right.
the lease, if you want to provide only a couple of spaces, then that could be done.
I think you could probably do it with a lot less lower impact and political fallout for everybody.
And also, I'm not sure how the town feels about adding more parking spaces along Pilgrim Avenue, and same thing with Conan Avenue, because there's other options of providing parking
Right.
along Pilgrim Avenue. But
Right.
that would probably, require significant changes to the traffic circulation.
Understood.
So similar to Pilgrim Avenue, Conan Avenue is a little bit shorter. It's about 550 feet long. Again, it's the same 50-foot right-of-way. It's a little wider than Pilgrim Avenue. Conan Avenue is approximately 20 feet wide, and there's no curbing or sidewalk. Again, there is no parking on either side of Conan Avenue except at the short section at the east end of the roadway. So again, it's similar three concepts where we would just provide a hammerhead turnaround without any parking spaces. The second alternative would be similar to Pilgrim, where the southerly side would have, I believe, 2 parking spaces. If you can go to the next slide, Dan. Thank you. So similar to Pilgrim Avenue, we would provide 2 parking spaces, an angled, and that would be a reverse only. And then the third concept was to provide more parking spaces on the northerly side. But because this is a shorter section of roadway than Pilgrim Avenue, we can only provide 2 parking spaces to the north for a total of 4 parking spaces. As you can see there, within the widening, there is landscape areas that's owned by the abutting property, but it's within town right away, so that would have to be either removed or relocated.
And again, if you did just parallel parking, stacked, you'd probably use half of that right away, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
All right. And
We would
you
use
wouldn't-
half of
You
that.
wouldn't be encroaching on the property owner as much?
You might be encroaching a little bit
A
into the
little bit,
landscape
but
area, yep.
not
Not as
in this
much,
degree.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That's the point I'm trying
Yep.
to make. Thank
And then again, with parallel parking, as you suggested, Mr. Murray, is, typically it's 22 feet wide. I think we can only fit either 1 or 2 vehicles on either
Well,
side.
I think
Yep.
that would probably suffice,
Yep.
You get 2 on each side. I think people would be more than happy with that, because there's none now.
Correct, yeah, there's none now. Yep, this would be an improvement to the parking.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the the third roadway is Bass Rock Road. So this one, Bass Rock Road is 900 feet long. The width of the roadway varies. For half of the roadway on the western end is only 12 feet wide, though this roadway is two-way traffic, and then it widens a little bit in the midsection to 14 feet, and then it further widens at the parking area of 30 feet. So what we try to do here is mimic the existing parking Unfortunately, on this scenario here, on this concept for Bass Rock Road, we would lose 2 parking spaces. Existing, there is nine parking spaces. We would only provide 7 parking spaces here because the footprint of the Hammerhead turnaround would take up the 2 parking spaces at the end. I mean, if we wanted to provide more parking spaces, we would need to widen on the southerly section if we wanted to put back the 9 parking spaces. As you can see, the roadway kind of angles. So that's Bass Rock Road. Moving on to the 4th roadway, which is, oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So with Hazard Avenue, it's about 500 feet long. The roadway also varies in width, but it's a little wider than Bass Rock Road. It's 20 feet at the narrowest, and then it's 24 feet, and then widens at the east end at the parking area, which is approximately 30 feet wide. So this one, we're able to provide the number of existing parking spaces, which is 9. And then, as you can see here, we're providing the Hammerhead. I forgot to mention that the Hammerhead would have, a no parking sign, including a no parking striping, to try to mitigate any parking within the Hammerhead area. And then lastly,
I had
Yep, go ahead.
another question. Okay. Instead of having, well, that's the next one. Is that no, that's the previous, it's Bass Rock, right?
Yeah, that's Bass Rock Road
Okay,
right
well,
there.
Either one, that has it, or I'm assuming Newton, because when I looked at them, and I didn't understand why the parking was pointing to the east there. I mean, to the northeast.
Right.
Shouldn't it be pointing more northwest, so when you pull in, it sets you up to back out and take off?
The idea here is to have people drive and turn around at the Hammerhead and then back into the parking space. So when you're going out, you're pretty much, it's just the easiest egress out of the parking space. So all the proposed angle parking is a back in only, reverse only parking.
Is that marked, like
Yeah.
on the pavement?
We would provide additional details on the signing, and then also wheel stops would be provided as necessary. Because in some of these areas, there are fences and stone walls. So we just want to make sure they don't back into it, so we
Right,
would
but
provide
not-
wheel stops.
Right, but not so much this example, but the example of Hazard and Newton, that pretty much the road width that goes from wall to wall on both subject properties, where you could angle that more towards the northwest, where you could pull in and just back out and eliminate the hammerhead.
Eliminate the Hammerhead?
Yeah, I mean,
Well, they need to be able to they need to be able to turn around. The Hammerhead is
well,
needed
I
to be
mean,
able to turn it
I know,
now.
but if the parking, see, it's angled, let's just say to the northeast. If it was angled to the northwest.
Okay.
You would pull in and just set yourself up for a 3-point turn to back out and then exit the parking.
Unfortunately, at that situation, if you have vehicles parked in the parking spaces, you're not going to be able to do the 3-point turn. You would actually hit the vehicle that is parked.
So you're saying that the roadway isn't wide enough?
It's not wide enough. The existing parking there now, it doesn't meet current standards, right?
Well, that's my point. That's why
Yeah.
you're in here, because correct me if I'm wrong, but the property line to the north,
Correct.
that can be grubbed out and used for parking, correct?
Right.
Okay, so would that make it wide enough where you could set up a potential visitor for a 3-point turn?
You could make a 90-degree, but that would be more of an impact. You would do more widening for that situation rather than providing.
Well, that was my thought
Yep.
when I initially proposed this, is to
Yep.
eliminate this, because the complaint we keep getting is people are backing into the guy's mailbox, and people are kind of bogged down there.
Yep.
They pull in and they,
So what we want the vehicles to do is to drive in through the
hammerhead, but they're not going to
Hammerhead
do that.
and back
They're not-
in.
They're
Yep.
definitely not going to do that.
Yep.
I guarantee it.
Just please also keep in mind that any additional impacts to any impervious area would require permitting with the coastal, with the CRMC. In that case, the town would be on a hook of, doing more stormwater runoff improvements. And we're just trying to mitigate that and, just do a maintenance ascent, which is just providing CRMC the plan set and photos and a form.
Could have pervious parking down there, would eliminate a lot of that.
Any more questions for this one?
No, we're good.
So if you can move on to the last roadway, which is Newton Avenue. So this one, so again, Newton Avenue, similar to Bass Rock's, about 900 feet. It is 20 feet wide and then widens approximately 24 feet at the parking area. There is a bit concrete curb along both sides of the road with no sidewalk. Similar to the other roadways, there is no parking on either side of the road, again, with the exception of the parking area at the east end. The parking is actually along the northerly side of the road. That's currently not striped, but from aerial images, it was striped at one time with seven spaces. So what we had done is, in order to mitigate impacts to the mature hedges on the northerly side, we had proposed the parking on the southerly side, which had more room. And then we would provide 4 parking spaces versus what's being parked now. As you can see in the last figure, there's a lot of people that's parked on the northerly side, past the no parking. Correct. Now, again, we can provide a concept where we would provide the parking along the northerly side, but again, this hedges would have to be cut down. And again, that's within town right of way. And we just try to mitigate the least impact within town right of way, because we understand that these hedges are probably privately owned by the abutters.
But it is in the town right away.
That's correct.
Okay.
So again, we'll get into more discussion with the town, with the DPW director, and to see where the town is, comfortable of, what can be removed, what cannot be removed.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea was trying to provide easier access in and out and utilize the right of way, but we're just making it less accessible, and I had never seen a hammerhead parking scenario myself. Have you ever seen the hammerhead parking? You pull in and you pull out the back. I don't know, I've never.
Well, again, the purpose of the hammerhead is to mitigate people from backing into private driveways. So that's the whole point, is to try to get them into the hammerhead to turn around rather than on private road driveways. And unfortunately, the roadway is not wide enough to be able to do a 3-point turn without having to utilize the entire width of the town right-of-way.
But
And
to the north and to the south, there's both stone walls that are demarcation line of the property line, correct?
yes, there's a stone wall on the northerly side, from what I understand. On the southerly side, I think they're just hedges.
Hedges, right?
Yep.
Okay. But,
So again, it's just a
the whole
matter
idea
of,
was to utilize that space to
Right.
make it easier to pull in and pull out.
it's just a matter of, just discussion with the town of how they want to proceed with, removing any physical features within the town right-of-way that probably is, owned by the abutters.
Well, that's,
And lastly, what we want to do is, from what we understand, is this driveway here, there is an existing issue with drainage. There is ponding across the roadway. This is probably from, all the times that the roadways, the driveway is being driven over, so the pavement is settling. So what we had done is we proposed for the proposed full depth reconstruction to be extended past the driveway, so we can rebuild the base and then also provide a berm across the driveway, a low-lying berm, in order to control stormwater runoff and get it down the end of the roadway.
Okay, great. So we do have our public hearing at 8. So are there any last quick thoughts from the council?
Thank you, Herman.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, Ms. Peralta, for coming out here.
Thank you.
And to Beta for the work that you've all done.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, so we have our public hearing at 8, so we'll just take a minute or two here to get set up. Thanks. Okay, great. So do we have a motion to open and hold a public hearing on an ordinance to adopt revisions to the temporary tax credit that could be applied to certain properties receiving Historic District Commission approval for exterior repairs, renovations, and additions?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the public hearing's open. We have our Community Development Director. Oh. Did we not vote? Did I just?
No, I
Sorry.
think we said
Thank
it.
you.
Motion and a second.
All right, we have the motion and the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No, thank you. That happens from time to time. Okay, the public hearing is open. We have our Community Development Director, Mike DeLuca, who has been working on this, I think, for quite a while. So Mike, if you want to go ahead and give us the background and what's being proposed, that'd be great.
Sure. Thank you, Council President and members of the Town Council. What we have in front of us today is really mostly process-related amendments to the tax credit ordinance related to historic district, or the historic district regulations and rehabilitation, renovation of historic buildings in those districts. The purpose of this ordinance is threefold. One is to just add some clarity to certain passages of the language. And when we go through it, you'll see that some of the text revisions are really minor, but they came up in discussion as an opportunity to improve the language. Second is to remove some obsolete language. Since we drafted this ordinance 6 years ago, a few of the provisions of the ordinance seem to be inappropriate and have been called into question not only by members of the public but staff also. So you'll see those also. Last is to revise the procedures, and this is more important, and there's a little more depth to these revisions. There's 2 or 3 of them. To revise the procedures to be in conformance with the internal protocols that the Finance Department has in place for handling tax credits. And as you know, there are other types of tax credits that we have on the books already today. So some time ago, this was pre-COVID, to be quite honest with you, we had a meeting. It was myself and one of my staff members and 3 members of the staff of the Finance Department, tax assessor, the tax collector, and finance director. And we went over this ordinance as it was approved in 2016. And we realized there was need for some changes. Their most important concern was getting the processes written into this ordinance that dovetail with the internal processes of the building, of the Finance Department. So I'm going to go through these things fairly quickly. There's only a couple that really need a lot of explanation, and I'll add that when we go through. So Dan, if you could advance. So this is, I think, the second section of this particular ordinance, Section 70-142. Section 70 is the section on tax credits. It's not the historic district regulation. It's not part of the zoning ordinance. So it doesn't need it needs public hearing. It doesn't need 2 readings. When the time comes to approve it, it would be just read it and approve. So what we wanted to do is just add this reference here. And if you're reading it, it's pretty straightforward. This is explaining how tax credit would be allowed. And we're adding the reference to the Historic District Commission, since they are the ones who dictate whether an applicant gets a certificate of appropriateness or not. So, so it's again, this is clarification. It's mostly just housekeeping. Next one, Dan. Okay, on this one, all the text that's not underlined is existing, But what we wanted to do was make sure that we had a really airtight definition of historic structure. So there was this 4-point definition that was already put in place. They're listed individually in the state register. They're located in a district listed in the state register. Could be located in a local historic district. That's what we have right now. We have 6 local historic districts. Or it could be designated by the city or the town as an individual structure subject to regulation by the local historic district commission. So that language comes right out of state law. We had added the language at the bottom, and is not of a character subject to federal depreciation allowance. But one of the things that came up, and it wasn't the finance department here, this was the commission itself, they wanted to make sure that what we were doing is offering the tax credit to the properties that truly, really need it. So they have to be historic, for one thing, they have to be of a certain age. But they should also be owner-occupied or occupied by a business owner who also owns the building, so that these can't be properties that are speculative. These are properties that people live here in. So it's more or less saying, for those properties that people, have bought into our community and moved into these older homes and upgraded them, they should get special treatment.
So, Mike, is that added to the definition? That's a new piece?
Yes, the underlined language is the new piece. I'm sorry if I wasn't
No, I just wanted to
clear on
make
that.
sure I got it. Thank you.
Okay. Next one, Dan, please. On the tax credit itself, again, we've just added some clarification language. For those of you who were here when we did this the first time, you already know this, but for the rest of the audience, the tax credit can be up to $10,000, but it has to be, in order to justify the $10,000 tax credit, you have to do at least $50,000 worth of exterior improvement on your historic home. And you have to have qualified bills that are shown to staff and the Historic District Commission. The tax credit can only be taken in $2,000 increments. So if you were to achieve, complete $50,000 or more improvement on your home, renovation, you would only take it in $2,000 increments in a 5-year window. So what we did, and that's what this whole section right here says, if you've been reading it, in order to qualify the credit, the owner must spend at least $10,000 on a qualified maintenance or rehabilitation. If they spend $10,000, they get a $2,000 tax credit. $20,000 leads to a $4,000 tax credit. So that ratio ramps up every $10,000. So we wanted to make sure that we put in the word qualified. We have had experience where some of the materials, supplies, and labor that were submitted to us for a request were related to interior work. And interior work is not regulated, only work on the exterior of the home. So we wanted to make sure that qualified was in there. And then we just reinforced the $50,000 maximum. So, so if you did a $100,000 exterior improvement, you still only get a $10,000 tax credit. So the $50,000 threshold is the top end. If you did $1 million improvement, you still only get a $10,000 tax credit. Moving along, Dan. On restrictions and carryovers, this was one of the areas that the Finance Department was very clear on, that one of the things we had done wrong was we put in place a process that wasn't workable for them. So there's 2 things happening here. One is, instead of talking about the maximum credit in 1 year, we talk about the maximum credit in total with the new underlined language. And then we talk about the maximum credit which may be used in a single year at the $2,000. It's clearer. It explains what I just explained to you a minute ago. But then the second thing was that the Finance Department informed me that we have no such thing as carryover. Maybe other communities do it, but we don't. So if there was an unused tax credit to be carried over, it would carry over to the following years. We were informed that's not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is to identify a tax credit an excess credit. So excess credit's going to replace carryover. And it says that if there is an excess credit in any year, it would be dispersed by check by the town. So the two things are somewhat parallel. It's just a different way of handling the internal procedure of it.
Mike, sorry, can you just explain to me how the excess credit works? Are you saying that after the $2,000 credit, if they don't owe $2,000 in taxes, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Say they paid $1,900 or they were billed for $1,900 in tax. They would get a $100 credit on that.
A check back?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. All right, Dan, next. So now we're into application, certification, and guidelines. This is cleanup language. Why this top line reads as it does is beyond me, because it says, remember, we're talking about the tax credit. We already have an ordinance on applying for approval in the historic districts. So the application for certificate of appropriateness and recommendation of compatibility has to do with getting the approval by the Historic District Commission to do those changes. That's been in place since 2008. We used the wrong language. It's been in the ordinance for I don't know how long, 6 years. And so we're just correcting it. It really is application for historic tax credit. Application for certificate of appropriateness is covered under the zoning ordinance that I mentioned a few minutes ago, chapter 5 of the zoning ordinance. So this is just a cleanup of an error that got by everybody, including me, and got on the books for 6 years. We haven't been exercising that. We've been telling people to apply for tax credit. And then again, we reinforce the need that tax credit only goes to exterior maintenance or rehab, and it has to be approved by the Historic District Commission. The last little change here is, again, we were corrected. There's no such thing as tax relief in our town. They are tax credits. So we're erasing the word relief and we're replacing it with credit. Next, Dan, I think there's one more. As it comes to documentation, as you can see, a lot of the language is already in place. But at the bottom there, we say that the commission shall have the right to inspect the property, which they do before each application will be approved, subject to reasonable advance request to the owner. The applicant shall provide documentation not to the tax assessor, but to the commission via the Community Development Department. The way this ordinance was originally written was that all the paperwork would go to the assessor first, but the assessor hasn't had any involvement with the development up to this point. So after speaking with the assessor and the finance director, it seemed to make sense to let all that paperwork come to me, let me create a file for it, forward it to tax assessor for his or her commentary, and then get that commentary back before we go to the Historic District Commission for their review. So that's why we're changing that step around. And then this part here, we had put in place an application fee for tax credit. And I had numerous people, from applicants to people that work in the building to members of the commission, ask the question as to why should we ask people to pay money to get a tax credit, to get money back. So we're just suggesting that we just take away the fee altogether. So that's what that is about. I think there's one more, Dan? Yeah, this is the end of the ordinance itself. It speaks about the review of the commission and their determinations. The first paragraph is already in place. The second paragraph really speaks for itself, but we felt it needed to be stated, even though the previous tax credits have always followed this process, meaning that once the tax credit's authorized by the commission, it shall be placed before the town council for ratification. All tax credits have to come to you for ratification, but we never had it in the ordinance. So we wanted to make sure that that commentary was in there. So that's it. I believe that's the last panel. And I'll open it to questions.
Thank you, Mike. So just a reminder for the audience and the council, what we're discussing are revisions to an existing ordinance, not the validity of the whole ordinance, which has already been approved. Well, why don't we go around the council for any questions? We'll go to the public. Start with Susan.
No, good job, good cleanup.
Eva?
Thank you.
No questions, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Deb?
Sorry. I think it was a really good job, too. I did want to ask one question about the second to last item, where it says, in order to defray the additional costs of evaluating and certifying eligibility, and you're getting rid of this fee. Was there actually additional cost of evaluating and certifying eligibility, or is it minimal,
Well-
or what's the deal?
The way we've worked it is that I go out and look at the property, but we also establish an ad hoc task force for each individual application. Two members of the Historic District Commission are created as an ad hoc task force to go out and look at the site. So they may have to drive over and, spend some time with the applicant, and that's about really all there is to
Okay.
it. There's plenty of paperwork to review, I can tell you that when they submit their checks and copies of checks and their receipts. There's a lot to wade through. So there's a bit of time involved.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Patrick?
Mike, I think it was the second slide in this presentation
Yep.
where, at the second slide? Where you deem other properties. You kind of went over that, and I kind of missed it. It seemed like you were adding to the historic district.
In this slide here?
I don't know, I think it was like the second slide you showed. You said you'd be able to deem whatever the
Oh.
commission.
Here, you're talking about number 4.
Yeah,
This is right out of the state law,
Right.
Councilman. And it basically is an enabling language. It's not something we have to do. But there are communities in the state that have deemed individual parcels as historic without having a larger historic district like we have with Central Street.
So
and
you
Narragansett
could basically go to Metuxet and declare some ancient
Yes,
dwelling.
if the applicant is
Or
requesting
Middlebridge.
it,
Middlebridge, right, we had those.
conceivably. But it has to be requested by the property owner. We wouldn't just go out on our own
Right.
and go picking off individual properties. There has to be some
I just
communication.
want a clarification on that one.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, Mike, just one general question. I know there's a maximum credit per project. Are there a maximum amount of projects that a property can undertake? And is there a time? Okay,
No, there's no maximum amount of projects. And so a person could get approval, do a big project, have that done, and apply for the tax credit. Now, one of the key other procedural elements in this that I did not highlight is you have to have all the work done, completed, before you can submit your application. So I've got an application pending right now that was approved in 2020 and revised in 2021 and completed this year. So, it's all done, it's completed. Could the person come back with, oh, I want to do more renovation or something else? Sure they could, yes.
okay, and could they have two simultaneous projects going on one property and apply out for those separately at $50,000 each?
I would be hard pressed to think of a way that they could do that because we would encourage them to incorporate all their proposals into a single application. You know, I'm building an addition, I'm renovating the front of the house, I'm putting a deck on the back, I'm fixing the stone wall. We would encourage them to incorporate all that into a single application and submit it.
Okay.
Could someone break a $100,000 project into two $50,000 projects? Maybe.
But of
Not
course,
yet, though.
we have discretion, right, with these applications? So, okay. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think I got one more question. Since 2017, this is when this all started,
Yes.
has the committee or the planning office held up a homeowner because of approvals? or conflicts with contractors that couldn't
Well-
quite finish something, or, we're just,
No,
was there any help holding the homeowner up from performing the reconstruction process?
not for the reconstruction process. Remember, the tax credit doesn't even come into play until they couldn't come in and tell us they're done with the work.
But have you delayed work because the committee had to meet in 2 weeks or something?
No, once their application is reviewed and approved, they get a certificate of appropriateness. At that point, it triggers with the building official that he can move on and get issue a building permit. The process does take some time. An applicant, typical applicant applies on the 15th of the month or before that and gets onto the next month's agenda, which is the
there's a
second
month.
Tuesday of the month.
Okay, so there's the 30, so he goes and pulls the permit. He's in a historic district. So he could probably pull the permit that day because he knows what he wants to do, but he has to run his plans through a month later through the historic committee.
Well, he wouldn't get the permit, not in day one.
All right, but, so you're killing 30 days at minimum, right? To get the process going.
True.
So there is a holdup.
Has nothing to do with the tax credit ordinance, but
Right.
there is a timeline, yes, sir.
That's just historic district
Yeah,
process, and then there's a tax credit process,
Right.
which you don't even have to go through if you don't want it, right?
Yeah, but you
I'll be
still-
happy to explain it if you'd like.
Well, you still-
No, I mean, as a property owner, you don't
Oh.
have to apply for the tax credit. You can,
Right, but you still have to go through the historic process, right?
Yes,
don't
if you're in a
accept- yeah.
historic district and you're doing exterior work
Whether
on
you're
your
taking money
house.
or not, you still have to go through the process.
That's true.
Okay.
all right, thank you, Mike. All right, we're going to go ahead and go to the public. Catherine, coming up. We'll have the town solicitor swear you in.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court.
Thank you.
I live in the Earls Court Historic District. It's a voluntary district, even though we have 4 Sherry cottages, Evangeline Doran's old house, the Tower House, the Earl House, the Hut. But because we're in a voluntary district, none of these people can get this tax credit because they don't have to go through the Historic District Commission. They have no control over them. So they're like gypped, really. And it's all because we're in a voluntary district. And when the districts were established many years ago, I think maybe there were 5 of them, and somebody who lived in the Earls Court District didn't want to be under the control of the Historic District Commission, so we were waived out. Last time this was put up, the Earls Court, I know there was pressure. I talked to the lawyer who exerted the pressure. He didn't want his client in the historic district, okay. So now these 2 people have moved on, hopefully. The bottom line is this. Something has to be done to put the Earls Court Historic District under mandatory control of the Historic District Commission so they can apply for these credits. It's absurd that they can't. People behind me have put so much money into the house, it's ridiculous. Sally Latimer's old house, my God, the money they're putting into that, and they can't get any tax credit at all, and it's all because it's designated as a voluntary district. So if there's not going to be some action taken on this, then I want this amended so they could put the Earls Court Voluntary District into it in some way, shape, or form. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Stanley. Oh, sorry, we're going to have Mike come up real quick.
I'd really like to answer that because there's I think Ms. Celebrato is going to be very happy to hear the answer to this. In the original ordinance that was passed in 2009, we identified, we made certain, we knew we had 2 voluntary districts coming forward for approval. And we wanted to make sure that people that were in the voluntary districts who wanted to be in a regulated district and wanted to do repair on their houses could have the advantage of getting a tax credit. So the way the ordinance is written, it says any individual who does work on their exterior of their home, their historic home, in a voluntary district, if they bring their application to the Historic District Commission for a COA, for an approval, they can then go forward and request a tax credit, just as anyone in a regulated district can. And the only caveat to that is, once you've gotten the tax credit, then your house becomes essentially, as Councilman Murray had mentioned a few minutes ago or asked about, it essentially becomes a district of one. It remains regulated under the historic district regulations for at least the period of time that they have the tax credit. So she can do that if she'd like.
Oh, don't go away. Okay, I am in a mandatory historic district. Is there any way that works the opposite way?
No.
So Mike, are you
What
saying
if I
that?
don't want the
Well,
tax
wait,
credit?
I'm
What if
sorry, I don't mean to be
want-
glib.
What if I don't want the tax credit? I don't want you guys stomping around
if
like a
you're-
bunch of turkey vultures in my property.
If your house was built post-1950, then you don't qualify.
19 what?
1950, 50.
50. Oh, yeah,
Then
that's right,
you,
that's right.
your house doesn't qualify at all.
All right,
Lloyd Wright would be rolling over in his grave today.
Mike, so for that voluntary district, if someone did apply, what you're saying is that they would be bound to the historic district regulation for the period of time that they're getting the tax
Yeah.
credit, so it's a maximum of 5 years.
Right.
But then after that, they could do whatever they want with the house.
Yes.
Okay. It doesn't seem very long.
No, it was one of the really thoughtful things that came out of that discussion and implementation of the voluntary side of the program, the regulation.
Okay, thanks. All right, Stanley?
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Stan Wojciechowski, 1044 Boston Road.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask a question. We're talking about historic buildings, and it's so great that we provide a program that could add the historic building improvements. What I don't understand is the discrimination that you must live there, you must be a resident. I mean, maybe somebody that has their resident in Florida, because that's where the tax breaks are, so they're a resident in Florida, but they want to make their building, they want to update their home here in Rhode Island. Shouldn't they be included in getting this tax credit for the work they've done on the building? And the same thing for, I know one person that has a multi-unit, and of course, she's not going to be a resident of Rhode Island and pay the terrible taxes, but she has a multi-unit that's in a historic district. And why wouldn't we give her the incentive to upgrade her historic home and not get the credit because she's not a resident? So I don't know,
Well, if it's more than 4 units, it's commercial property, right?
it's commercial, but
So
you
it
have to,
would fall into the tax,
but you got to live there. You got to be owner or something. You got to live there or something. Owner,
or a local business.
ownership of the property.
Occupied or a local business, isn't that what you just said?
But you don't live here, you're not a resident. Yeah, I thought he said resident, that's what I want to clear up. I thought you had to be a resident or a business with a residency requirement, or this, again, discriminatory type situation. When we're talking building renovation, who do we care who owns the building? We'd love to see the buildings get improved, and if we're going to give one person credit, let's give everyone credit who is willing to improve their building and not discriminate. That's what I'm just saying, a discrimination factor from my point of view. But, you know, it's whatever you decide. I just bring up me and my discrimination pain in the neck. Everybody's treated equally, resident or non-resident. It's a building situation. That's what I thought, my opinion.
Thank you, Stanley. Okay, anyone else? Okay, looks like that's it. And just, I know Stanley, you just asked about it. So the line is either owner-occupied residence or a commercial structure supporting a business conducted by the owner. So that's the definition.
So 5 unit, he's conducting business, renting out the property.
It's a good point. That is the business, right?
That's a business, it's commercial property, it's more than 4 units.
I think the language as drafted would address that only if the individual lived in one of the 5 units. That would be the way it would work. And the entire property would be exempt at that point, but it would be be the owners. You have to have the owner on site. Now, you don't have to accept that language if you feel
I don't want to accept any of it.
differently and agree with the sentiment made by Mr. Wojciechowski. The thought here was to encourage more people to not only buy these older homes, but to live in them and maintain them continuously.
All right, thank you, Mike. Okay, any last thoughts from the council? Okay, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Cool. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, so we will move on to our consent agenda, or sorry, open forum. If there is anyone who's interested in speaking on any items not on the agenda tonight, now would be the time to do it. We ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. We'll start with Dr. Alba. All right, please state your full name and address.
Yes, Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett, Rhode Island. First of all, I want to thank you all for serving this past term. Congratulations to all of you. And whatever your future endeavors are, I wish you the best. In the Sunday Journal, it has the Marina Project dead in the water. Rhode Island Supreme Court kills Champlain's expansion after a 20-year battle. It says, it was pretty amazing, said Henry DuPont, after reading the last paragraph of the decision Friday morning. DuPont is a longtime island resident, former town council member, and director on the board of the Committee for the Great Salt Pond, one of the groups that fought the expansion. The good people of Block Island won today. Our natural resources won today. The people of Rhode Island won today, said Attorney General Peter Nerona, who joined the case, filing a motion against highly critical of CRMC, not only because this will preserve the Great Salt Pond, but also because of the principle that regulatory agencies in the state have to follow the law and make findings of fact and conclusions of law that the public can see and a court can review. As we all have seen what the RIDM has done in Galilee, we have to keep up the fight. David did beat Goliath, but as the people of Block Island has shown, they had to keep up the fight. They didn't sit back, they didn't acquiesce, they did not say this is going to be costly litigation. This, it just makes you shake. I'm glad, this shows you that there is still hope in Rhode Island. I congratulated Mr. Hummel for his outstanding work, and he wrote back to me in a letter. But, it is really puzzling in this day and age. We reached out to the governor, we reached out to Terry Gray. I've even reached out to Senator Alana DiMario. I asked her, I says, why are we not doing this fight? Well, it'd be too costly, litigation. We have to fight. We can't sit back. Where are our senators? Where are our representatives? How come they're not in this House? I mean, when we had the library situation, we had people fight. We had the people show up. To me, this is as important as the library. We all have seen the eyesore in Galilee. It's an environmental hazard. RIDM should not be allowing this to happen, and now they want us to pay for the demolition, supposedly. So I hope that each of you and the town manager, our town solicitor, keep on top of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stanley? Please state your full name and address.
Stan Wojciechowski, 1044 Boston Neck Road, Narragansett. I want to speak in defense of my grandson, in support of my grandson, who was a college student. I was a college student myself in 1961. I married a college student. I had 5 children. They were all college students. And now I got grandchildren, and those who are old enough have all gone to college. So they're all college students. So I'm a little concerned about the discrimination which starts with negative talk about college students. Starts with negative talk. And that, I know that evolves into hate speeches. Eventually, this kind of thing happens. And I see a sign out there, residents first. Residents first. I mean, everybody else is second. Is this America? We have first and second? So, and you know, in this town, the college students are second. Sounds like, you know, it appears that way from the talk I hear. So we're progressing down to that discriminatory situation, which is so anti-American. And I was reading a book. There was a country in 1933. It had a spate of decrees which revoked individual liberties. And in their case, the death penalty was introduced for a wide range of politically defined crimes, among them Freemasons, homosexuals, gypsies. Gypsies, I brought this up before. Gypsy, non-residents. Isn't that what a gypsy is? So there was a country back in 1933 who tried to eliminate the gypsies, the non-residents. And they went too far. They really went right over the edge. And I know we're not there. However, we're kind of on that path of extremism here. Discrimination. Therefore, I'm going to do my best to attempt to get 4,000 students to protect their rights, to register to vote. They'll have to check and see about their financial situation, but I'm going to go there and I'm going to tell the students, to protect your American rights, you have to register to vote. You are here more than 180 days, and I thought that makes you a resident. Therefore, you have the right to vote. You must do that. Otherwise, our government will continue to go down this road of discrimination. You must start now. I'm going to do my best to find those students to sign up, defend our rights in America. Liberty and justice, equality for all. I don't care whether they're students or who they are.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Catherine? Please state your full name and address.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. Some people have a question as to my mathematics as far as the cost of the library. The library board has chosen to look at the cost very simply. The bond minus the OLS reimbursement. To them, the answer is 2.6 million. That's taxpayer cost. I've approached this as a complex mathematical word problem. What is the total cost of this project? And this is why I feel that you have to add everything in. The loan that we've given them, the $400,000 they've transferred from their budget, CAM fees, loss of tax revenue, all of it. That is the total cost of this project. And full disclosure mandates that you put this information out there. As far as the registering students, I guess about 200 students have registered. I wrote to the town council about this a couple of months ago because I contacted Rob Rock of the Secretary of State office about this, and I asked him, can students register? And he said, yes. He said, but if they get financial aid, they have to make sure that they contact the source of that financial aid and to make sure registering was not going to interfere with that financial aid. As far as I can tell, nobody's bothered to caution any of these students. And also, the Division of Taxation considers voter registration as evidence that you're a resident. So they've got two things going on here. The financial aid, they should, it's fine for them to register, but these people are, it's not that they're registering because they want them to vote, you know, because they want them to exercise their rights. And I feel that it's just not right. I think these students should be informed that they have to go this extra mile and speak to the source of their financial aid, and also the fact that the Division of Taxation considers voter registration evidence of residency, which means you're subject to the state income tax. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, please state your full name and address.
Hi, my name is Paul Zonfrillo. I live at 7 Wynwood Circle. I'm sure you've seen these signs around town. Put it out to the camera so folks can see it. Political PAC money has come to the town of Narragansett. Some people call it dark money. This organization has raised $7,000 in contributions, and they've spent around $3,500 on campaign ads, website, mailings, door hangers, general promotion. And I brought this to the attention of Ms. Bonato rather recently in a creative way, let's say. So I took a picture of this and I put it next to a picture of her. But that was my political free speech, right? And yeah, I did. Well, yeah, and so I said I was concerned that you were taking support from this PAC. And you are not taking any direct money, but you are a huge beneficiary of these policies. And obviously, I mean, you can smile if you like, that's fine. And it's interesting because in your Facebook post, you said that just because you see something doesn't mean it's true, and the truth always prevails. That's what you said. So it is true that your name is on these signs. And it's also true that you could renounce that support from this PAC. You're accepting that support, and that's, quite frankly, that's outrageous, by having your name on these signs. So this is open forum, right? You're a citizen of this town. You could just right now say, hey, and by the way, these are the folks who are suing the town too. Some of the members who have given the money are from Narragansett 2100, and a lot of the PAC members donate to both Narragansett 2100 and this PAC. So, Ms. Bonato, I would suggest and plead that you renounce the support that you've been given by this organization. Because if the truth will set you free, please tell us the truth. I mean, do you accept this support? Because you do.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to respond.
Right, you don't have
it's
to
one way.
respond, but during open forum, you can also respond.
Because it's not going to be a back and forth. I'm just going to respond if he's done.
That's fine.
If he's done.
Are you done?
I am.
Okay, so I accept $0 from any organization, I have zero money, I take no money, and I resent that you put a picture next to a sign and made it like I am accepting funds. And I find it actually disgusting, and that's all I'll say for tonight.
I never said you accepted any funds.
All right.
And, well, wait a minute, she attacked me, right?
Paul, you said you were done, so we're going to move on.
I was done, that's correct.
Okay,
But
thank you.
you can still renounce their support, Ms.
Thank
Bonato.
you.
Thanks.
All right. You know, we should just be clear that for anyone at home, there are 4 other names on that sign as well. It's not like this is a specific sign for one person. So that's all. Just want to be clear on that. Right? All right. Who's next? Wynn, you want to come up?
And the name is spelled incorrectly.
All right. Please state your full name and address.
Wynn Hames, 30 Wood Avenue, Narragansett. First of all, this should not be even considered before the town council, anything political like this. My name is on the sign. I've asked them to take it off, but they have the right to do it, okay? There's nothing I can do it. I haven't accepted any funds. She hasn't accepted any funds. Nobody on that sign has accepted any funds. They want to go out and put anything they want. We can't stop them. All we can say is we disagree with our names being on the sign, okay? But this should not come to open forum, should not be in front of the town council. This is a political stunt, just like the one he pulled day before yesterday, walking around Mettatuxet when we were having a fundraiser there, and he's screaming, the library's not done, the library's not done, you know. So let's not get this into, I'm sorry this happened, but that's just my feelings about it. People don't know, don't understand what's going on in town. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Wynn. Yep. Lori, come on up. Please state your full name and address.
Lori Kelly, 444 Ocean Road. Change of,
Change of tone and topic.
tone of topic. Thank you so much. I'm losing my mind here. I just want to take a few minutes to thank this current council for the last 2 years of civility and common sense. And while the current council members might have disagreed with some of the public speakers, I don't know who, and sometimes you've disagreed with each other, but you've always been true to the voters of Narragansett and have had a commitment to work with each other and move the town forward. And I would say that we can tell that because very few people come to the meetings now because we know that you have it, okay? Pat, and just a couple words to each of you. Patrick, your ability to think outside the box has really saved a lot of ordinances and stuff on their way to passage. You've been able to get people to work together by just having a different way of thinking about things. And I'm certainly going to miss your sense of humor from the desk up there. You brought the library project back from when I was convinced it was dead. You brought it back after a lot of hard work, and we wish you well on your next chapter. Best of luck in this election. Jesse, you came originally to a lot of the library meetings before you ran for council, but we didn't know you very well. Like, I speak for all the people on the library side, and you kind of wonder what you were going to turn out to be. But you've been so hardworking and consistent and true to your service to the town, just really brilliant in your take on a lot of the issues, not that we've always agreed, and unflagging in your commitment to the library project. We wish you could stay on, but the young family, we understand, and just thank you for giving us the time that you had. I got to go faster on this. Deb, you were also a really early supporter of the library and consistently worked with the council to support the library and all opportunities in the town for progress. And we support that, you've always been prepared and had data and reasoning and been prepared for every discussion on the town. So again, thanks to you and best luck on the election. And Susan, you were there through thick and thin, and without you, with Love Your Library and Save Your Library and, going for the referendums and all your tireless work, obviously it was a lot of people helping everything on the library, but you were really there for years and years and years, just fearlessly joining the lawsuit to save the building, standing up and being a true asset to the town to do what is right and to move forward for the town. And I thank all of you for your service. That's about all my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
How about a big hand for the town?
We appreciate it. Okay, anyone else? Yep. All right. All right, please state your full name and address.
Yeah, John Hanley, 10 Wilderness Drive, Village of Point Judith. I hate coming up here and speaking, I really do, but what I see happening in the town now is certain big property owners and the out-of-town carpetbaggers joining together, trying to actively pit the student population against people that live here year-round. They come up, we're anti-student, we're this, we're that. We're not. All we want is peace and quiet and a nice place to live. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, anyone else? All right, looks like that's it. So we're going to move on. We'll close off the open forum section of the meeting and move on to the consent agenda. Any items on consent that any council members would like to remove? Okay.
Make a motion to pass the consent agenda?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Under the Finance Department, number 9 is a motion to approve the annual licensing fee for the town's financial software suite from GovInvest, Inc. in the amount of $43,250. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, are there any comments or questions from the council? All right, anyone from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 10 from Parks and Rec is a motion to approve the renovations to the Sprague Park baseball field to be completed by Abcor Restoration Company Incorporated in the amount of $36,124, utilizing the general construction services contract.
I'll move the motion.
Second?
Okay, any questions or comments from the council? Does anyone want to hear from Michelle? All set? Okay. Anyone from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Number 11 from the Police Department is a motion to approve the purchase of 9 radios for the Police Department from Motorola Solutions in the amount of $32,792.31.
I'll move the motion.
Second?
Any discussion? Okay, anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. And number 12, under the Fire Department, is a motion to accept a reimbursable fiscal year 2022 Department of Homeland Security Emergency Management Preparedness Grant in the amount of $25,000 from the Rhode Island Emergency Management Agency, and to authorize the town manager to sign acceptance of said grant.
I'll move the motion.
Second?
Any discussion? Anyone want to hear from the chief? We're going to hear from him after the next item anyway, so we'll wait a second. Anyone from the public? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 13 is a motion to approve the purchase of 1 new 2022 Rosenbauer Commander pumper truck from Specialty Vehicles Incorporated through HGAC by Houston Galveston Area Council Purchasing Cooperative in the amount of $563,926. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second?
Okay. I'd like to have the chief come up, if you don't mind, just to give a little bit of explanation on the cost and how you have this kind of figured out.
Yes, thank you, President Fu. This is it's a project really I wish I didn't have to come before you to go over and review, but unfortunately the urgency of this project has accelerated for a number of reasons. This is a project that was going to be a 2-year funded project, so this year was about 78% of it was funded to replace a 15-year-old pumper. Next year, the balance of it was going to be considered for the funding as well as we entered into the planning of the next capital year funding. But due to the accelerated deterioration of this pumper, again, which is a 15-year-old pumper, that in combination with the ongoing supply chain issues, it takes anywhere from 18 to 24 months in which to get a new pumper in for purchase, expedited this project. So overall, what I am looking to achieve with this is to move this project forward, accelerate it, and bring it into this budget year. Unfortunately, I couldn't delay it anymore. If we don't go ahead and purchase this pumper, the next pumper of its like would not be potentially available to us for another 18 to 24 months, so another 2 years. Many discussions with DPW regarding the ongoing corrosion of this frame of this pumper has contributed to us trying to expedite this project. And it's contributed to a number of factors, this ongoing corrosion. Again, it's 15 years old. Back in 2008, we didn't have an aggressive preventative maintenance program, an undercarriage preventative maintenance program specifically with DPW. The salt water, the ongoing storms that we've encountered has contributed to some of the deterioration, along with probably potentially some inferior, I would say, construction and undercarriage protection. We've gotten what we can out of this vehicle, and it's reaching a point where it would become structurally deficient, and I'm concerned about that. We've already had to replace the steering box neck mechanism on it. That's been rebuilt, reconstructed, and I'm concerned that it's not going to last another year or potentially 2 years. I don't want to pull money away from another important project, as you know, which was the renovations to particularly Station 2. I came before you in June of this year expressing just how important that project was as well. And you graciously appropriated funding for that project, $650,000 for that project. It's ARPA funds, and what I'm looking to do is take the balance of what would be required of this pumper project and fund the remaining portion of it. So again, it's about 78% of that is currently funded. We had budgeted for that. It's about $440,000. We're looking to pay the remaining balance of that, which comes out to $123,926,000 now, reappropriate that ARPA funding towards that project. Again, the $124,000 from ARPA funds to that project. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. We did look at alternative options. We did go out and consider a refurbish of this existing pumper, basically take all of its top body, pump all of its mechanisms, and put it onto another frame. That alone is a price we got back at, it was $255,000 or so alone just for that project. And again, the life expectancy on a refurbished truck is not 15, 20 years, it's anywhere from 5 to 8 years on a refurb truck. We didn't think that that was prudent expenditure of those funds. So we went with looking for a suitable stock truck that would be more readily available to us. I think I probably covered all of it. If there's any questions, I'd be certain to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Susan, any questions?
No, so you said the 400 comes from the department and then 123 from the opera funds, right? Is that what you
Yes,
said?
yes, it was, yep.
Okay, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, Eva?
No questions.
Okay, Deb?
Just a couple. I was just a little bit confused about one statement in the information that you provided to us. It said alternative stock pumpers currently in production and available are larger and more expensive, exceeding our needs. So we're not getting one of those.
We don't want that more expensive pumper.
Okay.
The one we spec'd out was a smaller one, smaller capacity, less expensive.
Okay.
And the others are larger capacities, more expensive.
Okay, and the funding that you're taking from the ARPA funds, will that just be, do you have funding in capital or anything for the other process for next year? I mean, for the other plans for next year?
Yeah, we would be anticipating a deficit in that project for completion of that project.
Yeah.
It's ongoing, it remains ongoing. We've gone through the wetland delineation, we've gone through the survey, we will have the bid award go out from the RFP at the next council meeting.
Okay.
So for architectural and engineering services. So that will get done, that will get completed. We'll have a little bit more knowledge of the overall expense going forward for that project. I anticipate still hopefully being able to complete some portion of it, which the most important is increasing the living capacity space at that south end station.
Oh, yeah, that's my favorite station, so.
Yes, I know, yeah, I know.
Okay, the last question I have is I was just wondering what the life expectancy of the new pumper would be.
We look to get 20 years out of it. So 20 years out of a pumper is our vehicle replacement plan. 15 years active pumper. So he's 15 years on the road running, out to the fires and rescue runs for 15 years, and then the next 5 years in an active reserve role. So it would be our backup pumper.
I really just asked that question for Stanley, so. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Deb. Patrick? All set? Okay, I am too. Thank you. You explained it pretty well. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
And we will have Stanley come on up.
You thought you answered the question.
Thought I took care of that, Stanley.
Please state your full name and address.
Sandwich Chelsea, 1044 Bosnick Road. 100,000 miles is not very much. I figure that commercial vehicle should be able to do 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 miles. I know we have salt and all, but I wonder if there's a program to coat all the fire trucks now. Now that we know that we got a rust problem, and we always knew we had a rust problem, but I just recently had a mechanic spray, wire brush and spray the whole underside of my car. And he had 2 different kinds of protector. There was a heavier dose. I don't know what they are, but there are special paints or coatings that now we got to learn from this, that we've got to spray coatings under all our trucks, maybe every year. In fact, I bumped into a fella when he saw my old truck. He said, what they do in Maine is, every year, they take drain oil and they spray the underside of the pickup trucks with drain oil every year. And that seems to cause it to last longer. So I really think and it's not only a fire, the fire brings us up, the fire truck brings that up, of course, but it's all our trucks, all our vehicles should be sprayed, whatever the coating company says is appropriate to maintain the frames, because we're in trouble in Narragansett, I can understand that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, can't you authorize more opera funds? I mean, only 123. Who's in charge of opera fund allocation? I want to just add another couple of $100,000 here from the opera funds, because this is a needed thing. You know, we have to have the pumper truck. This is like an emergency situation. I'm sure you could justify maximum funding from the opera funds, maybe from some other sector of the town that, I don't know, maybe take away the air conditioning over here and give him money for his truck. His truck's more important than air conditioning in the building. I don't know. But is that a possibility? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stanley. Paul? Please state your full name and address.
Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Winwood Circle. I had the pleasure of chatting with the chief at the Fireman's Ball, and the chief's kind of a gear guy, but for the fire, you know, the person you know that always knows which stereo to buy, which gadget to get. Well, he's that guy for fire stuff. And I thought that was kind of cool. He told me about a bunch of the stuff. So, Stanley, the ambulance that's rotting out can go to your house, not my house. So, but all kidding aside, I mean, the chief has done his homework. I was really impressed at his command of all the stuff that's in the inventory, and so he's done all his homework. And he also told me that they're now coating all the stuff underneath. So, great job, Chief, and thank you for all that you do.
All right, Catherine? Please state your full name and address.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. I think new vehicles already come coated. It's not like the old days where, you know, you had to do it yourself, number one. But number two, if we can sell surplus property, is it possible we could get anything for this truck? I think Stanley has his eyes on it. It's got another 100,000 miles on it, Stanley, so you should have first dibs. But also, the other thing is this. South Kingston doesn't have a paid fire department. And I know all about mutual aid, and we frequently go to South Kingston, and I just don't know why they shouldn't kick in some money. You know, I mean, I'm being dead serious here. They don't have a full-time fire department. We go there frequently. I don't know why they're not chipping in. Thank you. But
Thank you.
otherwise, I mean, I think it's fine, except that I'm kind of concerned that you're not going to finish the renovation in the fire station, because I don't want people sleeping behind, you know, those blankets held up, you know, by a close line. Not a good idea. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. And there is a trade-in value of $2,000 for 2,000. You might, that's what I see, 2,000, right? Right. So that we would get that 2,000 back, but still 563,000.
It's going to last 20 years.
You could do a trade. Can we do a trade-in now? It's not a set. You're not selling, right? Yeah. So we can actually do that.
Aren't you going to do it?
Okay. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Next, we have from Public Works. Number 14 is a motion to award the bid for unleaded gasoline at 14.5 increment over OPD oil, price daily, and diesel fuel, 0.145 over OPD to Santa Buckley Energy for the period ending August 31st, 2023. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Anyone from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. And number 15 is a motion to approve the purchase of cold patch and hot patch based on the State of Rhode Island Master Price Agreement for asphalt, cold patch, hot patch, burb mix, and winter mix. Cold patch delivered at $175 per ton from D'Ambra Construction Company Incorporated, and hot patch picked up at $100 per ton from Lynch Corporation through the expiration of the contract. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Anyone from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 16 from engineering is a motion to approve, ratify, and confirm the multi-year contract award with Direct Energy Business Marketing, LLC, doing business as Direct Energy Business for the purchase of natural gas at their quoted bid fixed price of $8.68 per decatherm for a 3-year period. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Anyone from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Number 17 is a motion to approve a 1-year extension of the annual preventative maintenance agreement for instrumentation, control programming, and SCADA equipment system from Electrical Installations Incorporated in the amount of $10,800, water $3,600, wastewater $7,200 at their quoted hourly rates. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, anyone from the public? All right, has anyone understood the last 3 motions that I've said? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion approved 5-0. Number 18 is a motion to award the bid for the Maury Lugens Memorial Library renovation to E.W. Berman Incorporated in the amount of $5,478,000. Total base bid, sum total bid items 1 through 5, plus alternate bid item 1, subject to compliance with all state laws applicable to state-funded projects and construction, including but not limited to minority business enterprises, Rhode Island General Laws 37-14.1, and equal employment opportunity, Rhode Island General Laws 28-5.1. This award is conditional upon the town's receipt of formal notification from OLIS that E.W. Berman has met all requirements. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right. It's been, I think we've all been waiting a long time to get to this point. Do we have any questions from the council? We'll start with Susan.
No, I'm all set.
All right. Eva?
No questions.
Deb?
No questions.
Patrick?
I just wanted to make sure one thing from the solicitor. This is a conditional bid, so if we meet the requirements and it's all set with OLIS, it does not need to come back to the council at that point, right? It's
Right.
once we meet the conditions.
The only way we come back is if the contractor, Berman, could not meet the conditions, which we hope is not the case. I have no idea if that's, we all expect that to happen. So it is conditional, but once this vote occurs, up or down, if it's up, then it does not have to come back. The contract will be signed by the town manager, myself, and the library board, I believe, at that point, without coming back to you again.
And I don't have any other questions. I just want to say, I did some of the the bidding process with the town. I was at the meeting and I went to watch, and I just want to thank everybody. They were so excellent in their work and the package, and so I have complete faith, so I appreciate it.
Great. Okay. Why don't we go ahead and take public comment? We'll start with Stanley.
Sandwich House, 1044 Boston Road.
Sorry, please state your full name and address.
Stan Wojciechowski, 1044 Boston Neck Road. I just, looking at it, why are we agreeing to this without the formal notification from OLIS? You know, I would think that you would want all the ducks in other words, all the contracts, all the potential issues agreed to before you make a vote. And right now, you're telling me that OLIS, you haven't received the formal notification from OLIS that they met all the requirements. I'm not arguing about anything in the library. I'm just saying, in trying to get a contract through, I had to always make sure that every I was dotted, every T was crossed. I mean, we should have had the formal notification from OLIS that this is okay. Never mind waiting until later on and then try to, oh, it's no good, OLIS said it's no good, or something has to happen, change order. I can just see OLIS says this. Now we got a change order requirement because OLIS didn't approve, maybe, because it does say notification from OLIS. So I really think there's no need to rush. I mean, everybody's for the library, it's gonna happen, but I just worried about potential change orders and added expenses as a new situation arises from OLIS. Potential. I just want to act a little professional here. Let's get everything, all our ducks in a row before we make the final vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley. Catherine? Please state your full.
Roberto, 48 Hills Court. I'm not concerned about OLIS and the change orders. I am concerned about change orders, though. We always pick the lowest bidder, and then, it's change order upon change order upon change order. So what does the contract say? Is there any limitation? I always want these bids to go out for amount certain, and that way, you don't have to worry about these change orders. So what, does the contract limit the change orders in any way? I mean, I've seen change orders come before you that are like 20%. Is there a limit on change orders? Is it addressed in the contract? I don't know. I hope it is. Thank you. Or that you don't, or you set a tone that you're not going to, accept and approve change order upon change order. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, Dr. Alba. Please state your full name and address.
Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. Yes, I'm pro-library. I wrote many, many letters on behalf of the library. And I know I'm also frugal. I have a 2014 Camry. I tell my students I'm going to keep that car until it dies or I die. So I think cars are a bad investment. But getting back to it, because I am frugal, and I know Councilman Murray eloquently stated to our voters and everyone who was on board with this library how much it's going to cost us. And it wasn't really a significant amount based on the average person who's living in our town, based on his projected costs. So we all voted on that under the belief that those costs, which were so stated, will be hopefully upheld, and that we won't have cost overruns. And I know that Lori Kelly, she mentioned, if we have to do reverse engineering, we will. So I just hope, these are tough times. We have inflation going through the roof. I know you try to get a contractor nowadays, and it's really tough, and it's just prices are going up, 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 up. So I just want to make sure that, the original projected cost per taxpayer's tax increases, that's one of the reasons why I advocated, because I realized it's not going to be too much of a tax burden for any of us, because these are tough times. Some people are living, from paycheck to paycheck. So I just want us all to keep an eye on the overall cost to make sure that the tax burden is going to be the tax burden which was projected, which what Councilman Murray showed, it wasn't really that significant that we all could hopefully live. The bang for the buck was there. That's what I'm trying to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Hames? Please state your full name and address.
Win Hames, 30 Wood Avenue. Laurie kind of stole my thunder, but I was going to wait until this moment to start speaking. But I did want to stand here also and congratulate all of you who fought so long for this. I know Eva and Deb have been here for one term, and Patrick and Jesse and Susan have spearheaded this thing, have not let it die, and have pushed and pushed and pushed forward. I just want to congratulate all of you on this work, particularly Susan, because she was here the longest, and Jesse and Patrick. I don't agree with you on a lot of things, but I do agree with you on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Yep, Paul? Please state your full name and address.
Sure, Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Wynwood Circle. So the library is moving forward, it's a done deal. My concern is that you pass this tonight and not make the library accountable for the $1.5 million that they borrowed from the general fund. We were told that was a bridge loan to get the OLS funding. So it appears that we've crossed that bridge right now. And a lot of talk about the will of the people and believing in democracy and being rogue too. It's a little bit rogue to grab another $1.5 million from the project and not pay it back. You know, it's one thing if somebody borrows 20 bucks, doesn't pay you back, that's okay. But haven't we crossed that bridge? And when are we gonna keep passing things for the library? It's without getting that money back. We haven't heard anything about that. And it is not the will of the people to add another $1.5 million to this tab. So my question to Ms. Kelly, and perhaps she can address when it comes out, what is the date we're going to see that money back? And why is nobody holding the library accountable for that? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? All right. Looks like that's it for open public comment. Well, I'm not gonna.
All right, can you come up and explain the timetable on that 1.5? Yeah. All right. I know it's October, and that was,
So my understanding is we have returned part of that money, which I think we're,
700?
no,
How
we're
much was it?
about $1 million right now.
million.
But 100,000 may still be sitting in the Friends account. I don't know off the top of my head. Again, fourth quarter, there's going to be some big payments that were promised that should be coming in now. But I do want to overall, which I know you guys understand, but stress again to the people who keep throwing stones at the project, we promised not a penny more than 5.8, and your project costs were based on owing the 5.8, so it's 5.8 minus 3.1. So even if we had $1 million, we're still looking at 3.6 to the taxpayer, which is approximately half of the $45 that you estimated. So yes, we can't pay it back until the people who promised, which we know their names, they're big philanthropy, you know, they were waiting for this project to actually get underway, but that money is promised, and we should be getting a good chunk of it this fourth quarter, I expect. Can't guarantee.
So this is a benchmark, turning point night where we're going to start getting things rolling here. So out of that 1.5, you said $1 million's already been paid back?
No, we have a million outstanding, so about 500,000.
About 500,000.
It's been paid
And
back.
what's the timetable on the other million?
Well,
As soon as we start
I
getting-
believe, but again, I don't have the documents in front of me, we should be getting at least 300 in the next,
Right.
this last
Okay.
quarter.
So there is
And
a
then-
schedule out there, it's a little flexible, but.
Of what people have promised, and these are
Right.
the big donors. And of course, we're collecting the smaller donors too, but those are the
Right.
significant ones that we base the 1.5 loan on.
Understood, understood.
And
That's good
I
enough.
just, while I'm up here, I just want to say, everyone seems really happy with the E.W. Berman, who's a local guy and a local company. I've never heard anyone, I'm not in construction, but people are just very happy that that they've had a lot of success with him. And again, we're still on a really tight budget, but that is the 5.5 roughly for the build out, and that's really what we were looking for. That's what we had engineered to somewhere in there. So we will continue to fundraise because, there will be some changes that you just can't avoid, so.
So basically, with all the hurdles, with all the time that's passed, we're on track and things are.
And it's
pretty
not
much what we-
costing people more,
Right.
which is,
Pretty much what we predicted, what we discussed over the years.
Absolutely.
And we're on track. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Hi, please state your full name and address.
Nancy DiNuccio, 8 Vanderbilt Drive. I just want to say thank you especially to this council. And I have to point the finger specifically at Patrick and Jesse and Susan for the never-ending effort that you exerted for the last many, many years. And the town is really appreciative of your efforts. I thank also Eva and Deb for supporting this during this session. So thank you very much. I hope we're going to be moving forward and opening that new library probably within about a year. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Nancy. Okay, anyone else? All right, any last comments from the council?
Oh, let's vote.
Good?
Congrats.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0.
One more step closer.
Let that dog lie. Yeesh.
Okay, we'll move on to number 19, which is a motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, specifically text revisions to Section 18.1 entitled Requirement and Purpose. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Okay, so this is our second reading, and this is the ordinance related to the MLC, yes, which is the requirement that any application going through planning and zoning be paid in full with back taxes. So we already had the public hearing in the first reading. We won't be taking comments because the public hearing is closed. So we'll just go right to the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 20 is a motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, specifically text revisions to Sections 2.2, definitions, Section 6.4, dimensional regulations, and Section 7.9, automobile parking space. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Okay, this one is the bulk zoning revisions from the last meeting. We had the public hearing and the first reading. So we'll go ahead and take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I-
Aye.
I'm opposed. I'm
He just
opposed.
wrote aye.
All right.
Aye, aye,
All right, so
Nay.
nay. All right, motion approved, 4-1. Number 21 is a motion to introduce, pass, read, and accept as a first reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 70 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Taxation and Finance.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Okay, and this would be a first reading of what we just had the public hearing on, which is the Historic District tax credits. So we're going to go ahead and take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Motion approved, 4-1. And number 22, a motion to appoint, reappoint 4 members to the Gallery Advisory Committee. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Okay. Do we have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate the 3 folks who are entitled to another term to receive that term.
So Linda MacArthur, Janice Holly, and Gerald Albin,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
okay. Any discussion? Okay, anyone from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. Do we have a appointment or nomination for the 4th seat? So just looking through it quickly, 2 of the applications on file are already on current boards, and then we have Mr. Rogers, who is not. So to me, it makes sense to nominate him.
Wait, well,
If anyone has any thoughts on that, would there be a second for that?
I'll second.
I would second.
Okay,
Ever
second?
seconded.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, so I'll make a motion to nominate Patrick Rogers to a seat on the Gallery Advisory Committee. And it was a second by
I'll
Eva.
second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? All right, motion approved 5-0. And number 23 is a motion to amend the Town of
Council
Narragansett
President?
rules for commission, committee, and board appointments. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Oh, sorry, 1 second.
On that last one, was it 5 that voted? Did you vote, Deb? Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay,
Say
so
aye.
5, yep, 5-0. Yeah, right, but no other
That
applicants
was the
that,
quiet on,
Right.
just so you know.
I
mean,
saw
they-
he's a property owner, right?
Right, but he doesn't live in, yeah, he just doesn't live in the town.
A motion to amend the Town of Narragansett rules for commission, committee, and board appointments. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Okay. So
Our meeting, boards, commissions.
this is a item that I put on with a little bit of help from the clerk. Really what I was looking to do was a singular addition to our current rules, and that I was a little bit concerned about, which was that there was no requirement at the town level, and there isn't a requirement at the state level for advisory committees or boards to take minutes. So it's just not required. And that's okay that the state doesn't require it, but in my opinion, which is why I put it on, I think it should be required, especially with the smaller boards that they're not streamed. It's in a small room. There could be a discussion that really no one's at. So I think there should be some sort of documentation on what happened. So that's the reason for that, that addition to the rules. And then we did make a few other changes while we were at it, since it was being amended. Mostly language changes, just to make certain rules more clear in general. So you can see the strike-throughs, and most of this just kind of makes the rules more concise. It clarifies our rules for 2-term limits, when that started, that sort of thing. The only other substantial change, at least in my opinion, the one that would be substantial, is number 12 under requirements and rules for membership, section 2, which is, that would actually prohibit a town council representative from being a chair on a board, committee, or commission. I think that's something that we can have a discussion about. I don't know if everyone would agree. In my opinion, I don't think that's appropriate for a council member to chair a committee that exists to send recommendations to the council, which you'll then be voting on. But, I think it makes sense to have the discussion if anyone agrees or disagrees. So that's the only other change in there, other than the requirements for the minutes, in terms of substantial changes.
So I'm fine with those changes. Matter of fact, Deb and I met with the clerk, because there's still a lot more to clean up. So I'm glad you put this on tonight, but there is recommendations that are going to come to the next council. We met for about an hour and a half on a lot of different rules that need to be cleaned up based on some of the work that we've done or some of the things that we've observed. So I think that's great. I don't have any issue with, I don't think it's inappropriate. I mean, it's been the practice, and I certainly can vote for not having a council person chair, but in the past 12 years, people have. So I wouldn't say it's inappropriate. I think it's a fine change in the rules. The only thing too, and maybe we jot it down, Janet, one of the things is that when you were doing your clean, or us as well doing the cleanup, once a year, people are supposed to vote for offices, and I didn't see any cleanup on that. And so I've noticed that some of the chairs on some of the boards have been on for some time. I don't know if they're voting or not voting, but some of them have had long chairmanships on boards and commissions, so we might want to look at that as well. But all the changes that you are presenting tonight, I'm fine with.
Okay, great. Yeah, and sorry for kind of
No, yeah, it's fine.
jumping in. I know you and Deb were working on some updates, so hopefully these are kind of in line with what you were thinking, and,
Yeah,
and then
no,
you'll
it's fine.
continue
Yeah.
the work. So,
Hopefully, no.
Eva, any comments?
No, I agree with all the changes, thanks.
Okay, Deb?
I agree with all the changes, but I do have a couple comments. The first one is actually in the advertising once a year. I'm wondering if we could possibly advertise more often than once a year, because we can always use more people, to apply to be on various boards, commissions, and committees. So it's just a thought that I had there. Another thought that I had was, hold on one second. The annual report, the number in number 2.7. I was wondering if we could put a date, by which people should have the annual reports in. That way we know when they're due, and people would know what to do with, would know how to deal with that.
Hold on, Janet, is there a date, is it January they're due? The annual reports from the boards, I thought it was January. So we'll
Then we need to
insert
put
it.
that in. That needs to be in here as well. Then I was a little bit confused.
That's more of a clerk's office procedure. We send them out notices and give them deadlines to send those in. You want that in the rules as well?
I think it should be in the rules, because that makes it, very official, and,
Okay.
and that way you have something to go back to and say, but you didn't do it.
And it's a big report that the chair has to
Yeah.
do. It's quite, involved.
I mean, I know
so-
a lot, we get a lot of them. I don't know that we get all of them, but, I'm not sure that they all come at the same time or whatever, so I just think it would be good to have a time frame associated with that. That just clarifies things for people. I was a little bit concerned about the next one, not concerned, I was a little confused by the next one. I think that what I understand, where it says no person shall be appointed to serve concurrently, I agree with that, except that sometimes it does happen. So I was wondering if we wanted to start that by saying generally, and then where it says,
Discretion.
or, use discretion, or the part where it says, or boards or dual appointments required by charter, ordinance, or resolution, or dual offices may be permitted if all applications, if all applications are given appropriate consideration before a person is appointed. I just think the language needs to be a little bit clearer there. And the last,
Sorry, that's an existing rule. We
I
didn't
know.
update it. But doesn't that last sentence basically just say that?
it does, I just think it's sort of like, the sentences conflict with each other, so I think it just needs to be clarified. Yeah, we can do that in the cleanup, that's not a big deal. Then that number 11 on the last page, where it says the applicant shall be a full-time resident and elector in the town to be considered for an appointment to the planning board, pension board, and zoning board review. I think I read that one wrong, so I'm fine.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's one that
Yeah,
I think you guys had in
that's
in your
yeah.
forum the other night, which is something that a future council may want to make more restrictive or not.
Or not.
I'm okay with it.
So do we want to make an amendment just to add a timetable to the annual reports?
Yeah, just amend to include January.
Do we just
Or
want,
whatever.
should we just say each January, and that gives,
That's fine,
Yeah, then
Yeah.
they have the month to do it.
yep,
Because it's a lengthy report.
it is,
all right, so why don't we make an amendment to add that, and then we'll go back to the main motion?
okay.
So this is, do we have a motion to add, so do we have a motion to add under number 2, requirements, rules for membership, number 7?
Except just make sure it is number 7, because the numbers are a little screwy there.
Right, number 7, committee or board shall submit an annual report each January, including an attendance record to the town clerk.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's fine.
I'll make that amendment.
okay,
I'll second it.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, is that ayes? All right, motion approved, 5-0. So that's just to add January to number 7. Go back to the main motion. Okay. Any other discussion from Patrick? Okay, we'll go to the public for comment on the main motion. Anyone interested in speaking on this item? Okay. All right, so we're back to the general motion. We've added January. So that's it. All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. And it looks like that is it. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Thank you all.